Next, let us discuss the concept of memorandum as defined under section 2, clause 56. Now, memorandum means the memorandum of association of a company as originally framed. It means the one that they had filed at the time of incorporation, as well as altered from time to time. So your original memorandum as well as the one that you had altered from time to time will be considered as the memorandum of the company. Next, we have the definition of net worth. Not very important for exam, but we will study this just for the purpose of awareness. We should be aware of the definition. Net worth means what is the worth of your business, and since it is net, there are certain deductions also. This is the worth of your business, something that you will get when you close the business, or this is the money that is available with the company. It is the aggregate of, so we need to add the paid up share capital. We will add all the reserves that are created from actual profits, add securities premium, add the credit balance in P&L account, subtract the debit balance in P&L account. So paid up share capital, add reserves, add securities premium, add the credit balance of P&L account, reduce the debit balance of P&L account. After deducting, okay, it means we need to further deduct accumulated losses. We need to deduct miscellaneous expenses, deferred expenses to the extent not written off. All right. Your reserves will not include, not word is important, it will not include reserves created out of revaluation of assets, because that is not actual money. It doesn't represent actual profit. You're revaluing the asset to show it at the correct market value. That's not actual profit. You won't get anything if you want money against it. Write back of depreciation and amalgamation. All right. So this is the meaning of net worth. You must have studied this in accounts. Then we have the definition of notification given under clause 58. Not important for exam. We are just reading it because we want to cover all the definitions. Notification means the notification published in the official gazette. So wherever the word notification is used in the act, it means the notification in the official gazette. This official gazette is nothing but a public announcement made by the government of India. Earlier it was published. It was a weekly document which was printed by the government in the press of India, and it was also published. But after COVID, as I informed you, everything is available in the digital form. Go to the website. You can find archives of all the official gazette, all the notifications. Okay. And wherever the word notify is used, it shall be construed accordingly. It means notify is a variation of the word notification. It is the same. After this, we will study the definition of officer. See, officer and officer in default. It is not asked in the exam, but yes, you may utilize it for CA final. Now, who is considered as officer of the company? See, here officer does not mean somebody who is working at the lower level of management. Again, here we are talking about people who are responsible for the functioning of the company. They are the key people who manage the company. So officer includes, okay, it's an inclusive definition. They are not explaining the meaning of officer. They are not explaining the work done by the officer. They are simply mentioning who is considered as officer of the company. Why? Because we want to know who is in charge of company and who should be held responsible in case of default. So first we define officer, then we also define who is considered as an officer in default. What if something goes wrong in the company? Who should be held liable? That is mentioned. So officer means any director, manager, key managerial personnel. So we have director, manager, key managerial personnel, or any person in accordance with whose directions, instructions, the board or maybe one or more directors is accustomed to act. So this is the second part of the definition. In the word officer, we will include director, manager and KMP. but it also includes other officer. Any person can be considered. If we are the board of directors or any one or two directors, they are accustomed to act as per his direction, so he is considered to be an officer. So let's say that we are talking about Mr. X. In accordance with whose direction, it means we consult Mr. X. We means the board of directors, or maybe one or more directors. They consult Mr. X before taking any decision, that Mr. X will be considered as an officer. So any person in accordance with whose directions or instruction the board of directors or any one or more directors is or are accustomed to act. Then who is considered as an officer in default? Clause 60. For the purpose of this act. Okay, so whatever we are reading is relevant as far as the Companies Act is concerned. For the purpose of this act, okay, for the purpose of any provision. Now this is the word any also shows that this is a common definition applicable for any provision of the act that you are discussing. Wherever the word officer in default is used, it will have the same meaning. Okay, before I discuss that, we should understand why are we studying this? That what is our main aim of defining officer in default? In case of a company, I'll write Companies Act over here. So we have the Companies Act. In case of any contravention, okay, if we go against any provision of the act, the act holds either the company liable or officer in default liable. Okay, there are cases wherein we hold both liable. There are certain circumstances wherein the officer will be held liable. So we, in case of contravention, hold the company and the officer in default liable. As far as a company is concerned, the company is subject to penalty or fine only, because you cannot imprison an artificial person. So company will have to pay either fine or penalty. Now you may ask me, ma'am, what is the difference between these two? Why have you written both separately? Both are fine only, no? Now, fine is basically calculated on the basis of some reasonable calculation. There is some reasonable estimate. But penalty is basically to punish the person. It is a disciplinary action. Now let's say that I was driving on the road. Okay, not driving. I parked at one street and it was a no parking zone. If the penalty is, let's say, 100 rupees, so I'm not bothered. I will consider that as parking charges instead of fine. Okay, so if the penalty is just 100 rupees, we know that people are not going to be bothered. They will pay 100 rupees and park in the no parking zone. What if the penalty is 10,000 rupees? So if you have parked your car in that particular no parking zone and you have to pay a penalty of 10,000 rupees, you will never forget it during your lifetime. You will tell your parents, no, let's go walking. It is a no parking zone. They will take 10,000 rupees again. I don't want to give. Better to go walking instead of taking the car. See how you remember that penalty paid for a long time, because it pinches. No, it is a disciplinary action. That is the difference between penalty and fine. Fine is basically based on some reasonable estimate, whereas penalty, it has no reasonable estimate. It is just for punishment. So I can put any ad hoc amount. It may seem very unreasonable also, but main aim is punishment. Okay. Now, in case of company, you can't imprison an artificial person. So it will be either subject to penalty or fine. But in case of officer in default, he may be subject to penalty or fine and even imprisonment. I'm writing and or because we don't know. Every time he is not going to be subject to imprisonment. Okay, and imprisonment or imprisonment. Now, because the officers in default are subject to penalty under the act, we need to define them, no? Otherwise, we will hold any person as officer in default. That's not possible. Now, who is considered as an officer in default? Take the help of the previous definition that we discussed. Officer. What is included in officer? Director, manager, KMP, any other person. So keep that in mind. We have director. Let me highlight that for you. We have director, like whole time director. key managerial personnel, and we will read accordingly. But I just want you to keep in mind that the definition of officer in default takes hint from officer. Okay, now let's read the definition step by step. For the purpose of any provision in this act, okay, you may apply this definition to any provision which enacts that an officer of the company who is in default shall be liable to penalty or punishment by way of imprisonment, fine, or otherwise, then officer in default means the following. So you may be subject to either penalty, fine, or imprisonment. Officer in default will include whole-time director. Yes, whole-time director is included in the definition of KMP also. So whole-time director. Now, whole-time director is a person who is in whole-time employment of the company. You were in the full-time employment of the company and you're claiming that you were not aware of this misdoings. You were not aware that the company has committed some kind of default with respect to allotment of securities. What were you doing in the company? You are a whole-time employee. Don't say that you didn't know about it. So whole-time director is liable because he is supposed to know about the affairs of the company. He is there in the company the whole time. Key managerial personnel, they are at a very senior position. How come they don't know what is happening in their company? So key managerial personnel will include whole-time director, CEO, CFO, company secretary, one officer not less than one level below the position of a director. We had discussed all that. So KMP, but what if my company doesn't have any KMP? There is no manager, there is no managing director, there is no CEO, there is no CFO. Then where there is no key managerial personnel, then such director or directors as specified by the board in this behalf. Now, the board of directors, they have mentioned that out of all the directors, these three were concerned with the allotment. So see, just because you are a director, you won't be held liable. Okay, you will be held liable only if you were aware, only if you were a party to that wrongdoing, only if you gave your consent. Only then you will be held liable. Now, you won't be held liable just because you are a director. However, if no director is specified, then all the directors will be held liable. See, you are not mentioning who is the director who is actually responsible. Then in that case, all are responsible. Okay, we will hold all of them liable. Let us read this once again. If there is no key managerial personnel, then such director or directors as may be specified by the board who has given his or their consent in writing. See, they have not consented in writing saying, yes, I am an officer in default. They have given their consent means that yes, we are directors, we give our consent to the board, and in case of default, we will be held liable. And if those people were involved, then we will hold them liable. No, then they will be considered as officer in default. But the board is not specifying who were the directors involved. All are liable. All are guilty. Okay. Any person who is under the immediate authority of the board or any key managerial personnel is charged with a responsibility including maintenance, filing, distribution of accounts or records, authorizes or, let me highlight the word, authorizes, actively participates in, knowingly permits, knowingly fails to take active steps to prevent any default. So, any person who is under the immediate authority of the board or KMP, okay? Now, some associate director or some person who is directly below the board of directors or KMP. Now, they are charged with the responsibility of maintaining, filing, distribution of accounts or records. These people, they authorize or they actively participate themselves. They knowingly allow or they fail to take the steps when they knew about the default, then they will be considered as officer in default. Okay, now, from where did I find this? Let's say, for example, that the board of directors has authorized me to ensure that the allotments are taking place properly. I know there is a default. I know that there is something wrong, but I either ignore it or I knowingly allow it. See, normally what happens when you know something wrong is going on, you either report it to the higher authorities or you try to stop that act. But instead of stopping, you are ignoring. As a director, if I come to know about any default, I will try to stop it, or I will say that, see, I'm not associated with you anymore. I resign. But instead of taking any steps, you are keeping a blind eye to it. You are an officer in default. Any person in accordance with whose advice, direction, see, this was there earlier also in officer. Any person in accordance with whose advice, direction, instructions, the board of directors of the company is accustomed to act, but other than the person who gives advice to the board in a professional capacity. It may include company secretary or a chartered accountant. Now, the board, before taking any legal decision, consult the company secretary, maybe company secretary in practice. Before taking any decision, they ask the CA. So that CA or CS is giving their opinion in a professional capacity. They are not considered as officers in default. Okay. So any person in accordance with whose advice the board is accustomed to act, that is an officer. If you commit default, you are an officer in default. Every director, in respect of any contravention, who is aware, this is the keyword, we can't hold the person liable just because he is a director. You are aware. Or you participate in the proceedings without objecting the same, then you are considered as an officer in default. You may not have participated, but it is done with your consent. It is your connivance. Connivance means it is your idea, your planning, scheming, support. You are considered as an officer in default. So every director in respect of the contravention who is aware is the keyword. He has knowledge of the contravention. How come he has knowledge of the contravention? How did he come to know? Because he himself was a party to that. See, he was a party to the proceedings. He, without any objection, gave his consent. Then that person will be held liable as an officer in default. If the matter relates to either issue or transfer of any shares, then the share transfer agents, registrar and the merchant bankers, although they are not considered as officers, but they may be held liable as officer in default in respect of issue or, I'll change the ink so that we come to know this is different. In case of issue or transfer of shares, the share transfer agent, your merchant bankers, your registrars, they are also liable as officer in default. Alright. So students, let us go through the definition of officer in default once again. Why is this important? Because in case of contravention, officer in default is equally liable. Okay. Apart from the company, the officer in default is equally liable. Officer in default includes any director, KMP. It may include any person who is aware, a director who is aware or he participates. If there is no KMP, then the board will identify the directors, and if they don't do that, then all the directors will be held liable. Any person who is under the immediate authority of the board of directors, he allows it, he allows the act or he participates in it, he is aware of it, he gives his consent, he is liable. Any person in accordance with whose advice the board is accustomed to act, every director who without objecting it, either he himself is involved in the planning, he gives his consent, that person who is aware, who has knowledge will be held liable. And in case of issue or transfer of shares, then the share transfer agent, registrars and also your merchant bankers will be held liable. Won't be asked in the exam, but you should be aware that even if you have to write in your own words, at least you should know the keywords. That kind of awareness is required. Then clause 61 discusses official liquidator. It's not given in the module, so we will ignore it. One person company means a company which has only one person as member. All right. Then clause 63, very interesting. Ordinary and special resolution. You are already aware of that. Ordinary and special, we have discussed that in foundation also. But here we will also study section 114 later, which discusses ordinary and special resolution. But just for our discussion, let us make a small note over here. Ordinary and special resolution. So what is an ordinary resolution? Firstly, what is a resolution? Now, every new year we make so many resolutions, no, for ourselves. We will get up early. We will sleep on time. We will eat healthy food. We'll go to the gym every day. and by the time the week is over, we are back to normal. So what is a resolution? Resolution is a decision. Company is an artificial person. Can the company take decisions for itself? No. Company cannot take decisions for itself because it doesn't have a mind of its own. So who takes decisions? The resolutions, the decisions are taken by the board of directors, or they may be taken by the members. Board of directors in the board meeting, members in the general meeting. They pass resolutions. Okay. Now resolutions may be either ordinary resolution or special resolution. How will I come to know what kind of resolution is to be passed? The Act will specify. You want to buy back shares? Special is required. Bonus? Ordinary is required. Alteration of capital? Ordinary is required. So the Act will specify the resolution that you need to pass. You just have to pass the resolution required by the Act. So you don't have to apply your mind. Now, in order to pass an ordinary resolution, the votes cast in favor must exceed the votes cast against the resolution. So, in short, the votes cast in favor must be more than the votes cast against the resolution. As far as special resolution is concerned, the votes cast in favor must be more than or equal to 3 times the votes cast against the resolution. So votes cast in favor must be more than or equal to 3 times the votes cast against the resolution. Then in that case, a special resolution is passed. Let's take an example to understand this. Let's say, for example, that the total number of members in a company is 100. Okay, I have 100 members in my company. The number of members who attended the meeting are 70. The number of members who abstained, refrained from voting are 10. They were not interested. They said, we don't want to vote. We are just here to participate in the meeting. Okay. Then out of 70 people who attended, 10 don't want to vote. So only 60 people voted. Number of votes in favor, let's assume, were 40, and number of votes against were 20. Okay, so a total of 60 votes were cast. Out of these 60 votes, 40 voted in favor, 20 against. Is an ordinary resolution passed? Answer is yes. What is the requirement? That the votes cast in favor should be more than the votes cast against. So 40 votes are more than 20 votes. Agreed? There is another way. You can also calculate on the basis of total votes. So out of 60 votes, more than 50 votes should be in favor. So it means 30 votes should be in favor. In my case, votes in favor is 40. So yes, ordinary resolution is passed. Okay. What if I received 30 votes in favor and 30 against the resolution? Isn't it possible? Will the resolution be passed? If your articles if your articles allow the chairman to cast a second vote, that second vote is known as casting vote. If he is allowed to cast a second vote and he says, I want to vote in favor, then yes, the resolution is passed. But what if your articles do not allow the chairman to cast another vote? Then what will happen? If he is not allowed to cast a second vote, then the votes in favor and against are equal. In that case, the resolution won't be passed. It's an ordinary resolution. It won't be passed. Okay. Now, considering the same example, I'll repeat this. You can anytime pause the video and note this. Okay. Considering the same example, I'll just change a few details. Let's say that the number of votes in favor are 50 and against are 10. Okay. Now is a special resolution passed? In order to pass a special resolution, the votes cast in favor must be 3 times the votes cast against the resolution. Okay. So votes cast in favor must be more than or equal to 3 times the votes cast against. So if the vote cast against are 10, 3 times, it means votes cast in favor should be more than or equal to 30. In our case, it is 50. So yes, a special resolution is passed. If I want to consider on the basis of total votes, so the votes cast in favor should be 3/4, that is 75% of the votes cast against the resolution. Okay, it should be 75%. So yes, out of the total votes, 75% should vote in favor and remaining can vote against. So yes, over here also, out of the total votes, 75% have voted in favor of the resolution. So yes, a resolution is passed. Okay, so here we need 45 votes. Yes. Okay, so you can pause the video and write it if you want. Here there is no possibility that votes in favor will be equal to the votes against, because here we need 75%. So they will definitely have to be either more or less, but they can't be equal. In that case, special resolution won't be passed. Going back to our discussion, we were at special and ordinary, yes. Then we have clause 64, paid up capital. That's simple. Paid up capital means which is paid up for the time being in force, yes. But it does not include any other amount received, like securities premium won't be included. Any amount which is received as paid up, that is considered. Postal ballot. This is a method of voting. Now, what will happen in postal ballot? Along with postal ballot, we also give you the opportunity of electronic voting. Now, electronic voting means voting through the computer. Okay, you just log in and you vote whether in favor or against. But there are so many people who don't know how to operate a computer. So for them, what the company does, they will print the resolution and it is like an envelope. Okay, so you have to just tick whether you want to vote in favor or against the resolution. Fold the envelope, paste it, and on the back side, the company has already printed their address. They have already paid the postage. You just have to go and post it in the post box. So that is voting by post. And along with that, we also give you electronic voting option. Electronic voting means logging in and casting your votes online. So for people who don't know how to vote electronically, for them, we also send it by post. So they can, tick whether they want to vote in favor or against and send the vote through post. Prescribed. We have read this word so many times as prescribed. Where is it prescribed? In the rules. Where is it prescribed? In the rules. Yes? Okay. Private company we will discuss in second chapter. Promoter also we will discuss when we discuss the concept of incorporation of a company, so I'm not discussing it now. Only we will highlight the keywords. Promoter basically means person who comes up with the idea of business and he incorporates the company. That's a very vague definition. He does many things besides that. So he's the one who arranges for capital, comes up with the idea, conducts SWOT analysis, decides whether the business is feasible or not. Any person who is, we'll highlight, named in the memorandum, okay, named in the prospectus. So his name is mentioned in the prospectus as a promoter. He's a promoter. He is identified by the company in the annual return, section 92. We will be studying that later. His name is mentioned as a promoter in the annual return. Then you are a promoter. Who has control over the affairs of the company directly, indirectly, either as a shareholder, director, or otherwise. You have control over the company. You are a promoter. In accordance with whose advice, direction, instructions, the board of directors is accustomed to act. Okay, this we had read earlier also. So the board of directors, they will consult you before taking any decision. You may be regarded as a promoter. But if the board is being advised by a person in his professional capacity, like I am advising the board in my professional capacity, I am a chartered accountant, I am advising as a chartered accountant, I am not a promoter. But if I act beyond the powers of my professional duty, then I may be regarded as a promoter. It will not apply to a person who merely acts in the professional capacity. Okay. What is a prospectus? See, a prospectus is required in case of public offer of securities. So if I'm offering securities to the public, I will issue a prospectus. It basically provides information which will help the investor to take an informed decision whether to purchase the securities of the company or not. So prospectus means a document described or issued as a prospectus. Okay, so I'm saying that this document is a prospectus. Listen, that is a prospectus. It includes, all right, these are the types of prospectus. It includes a red herring prospectus. It includes a shelf prospectus. Any notice, okay, this is B. Then any notice, circular, this is deemed prospectus. Any other document which is inviting securities from the public, that is a deemed prospectus. So these are the kinds of prospectus. Public company also we will discuss later. Register of company is not important for exam. But what is it exactly? It is nothing but a register maintained by the registrar having records of the company. So it is a register of companies. Who maintains it? The registrar maintains it. Then it is very obvious. How he maintains, either on paper or electronic mode. Then the next obvious definition is who is a registrar. It means a registrar having the duty of registering companies and various other functions under the act, but it also includes people who come in the hierarchy like additional registrar, joint registrar, deputy registrar. So what do they do? What is their work? Okay, so these are the kinds of registrars. Because you can't have just a single person. He needs a team, no? There is a hierarchy. What is their work? They have the duty of registering the company. So in case you want to register a company, you will have to go to the registrar. He performs various other functions. He is involved not only in the incorporation of a new company, but also in the running of existing companies. So whatever filings, etc. we make, it is to the registrar. Related party. Very important. Not for inter level, but maybe final. Here you won't be asked to explain the meaning of related party, but definition can be asked. We don't trust ICAI. I have a note for you in order to save time. I have already prepared a note. So I would require your textbook on one hand and your attention on the screen as we discuss, because you will compare both. You will realize that I have included everything in the chart in proper sentence format. Now, who is a related party and why are we defining a related party? Generally, these scams and frauds in the company take place with a related party only. What happens is, I sell goods to one of my related party. I inflate my sales. I show a good profit. After the financial year is over, I accept returns. Now, all this is possible only if the other party knows me. It is possible only when we are related. Yes, no outsider will want to help me in this manner and take risk. So that is why it is important for me to know who is my related party, because we are in constant vigilance over these parties. Our constant attention is on the transactions between these two parties. See, it doesn't mean that you cannot transact with your related party. It simply means that if there is a transaction, we will try to analyze whether it is at arm's length. Arm's length means, are you selling the goods at the same price that you're selling it in the market to these related parties? Is the price the same? If I'm selling it to outsiders for 100 rupees, are you selling it for 100 only to this related party? If you're buying the goods from the market at 85, are you buying it from them at 85 or less? So we will try to know whether their transactions are similar to the transactions that we enter with outsiders. So we are constantly trying to analyze the transactions entered by the company with these related parties. So who will be considered as my related party? As far as a company is concerned, I have put company in the center because everything revolves, all the explanation revolves around the company. As far as a company is concerned, director of the company, director's relative are considered as related party for the company. Simple. Director and his relative will be considered as related party. KMP and KMP's relative are related party. So any transaction with them will be considered as a related party transaction. Simple. Any firm, now whatever I have highlighted in square, they are my related parties. This is only extra information. Okay. So private company will be considered as the related party of my company. Now, director, director's relative. KMP, KMP's relative. A firm in which director or manager or their relative is a partner. Listen to what I'm saying. The director, manager or their relative is a partner in the firm. That firm is considered as related party of the company. I repeat. Director, manager or their relative. It means whose director? Company's director. Okay. So a company's director, manager or their relative is a partner in the firm. Then the firm is considered as related party of the company. So if the company's director, company's manager or their relative is a partner, then that firm is the related party of the company. Did you understand how to decode these sentences? Next. Company's director, company's manager or their relative is a member or director in a private company, then that private company is the related party of the company. I repeat. Director of the company, manager of the company or their relative is a member or director in the private company, then this private company is the related party of the company. Director of the company, manager of the company is a director in a public company, and such director, manager along with their relative hold more than 2% of the paid up share capital of that public company, then that public company is considered as the related party of the company. This is there in your textbook also. Just read that. Director of the company, manager of the company is a director in the public company, and he either individually or along with the relative hold more than 2% of the paid up share capital of that public company, then that public company is considered as the related party of the company. Now, he may hold these shares either individually or along with their relative. That is a clarification which I have mentioned for you. Okay. Next. I am a body corporate whose board of director, manager or managing director or manager acts with the advice, direction, instructions of director, manager of this company. Okay, I repeat, body corporate whose board of director, managing director or manager acts with the advice, instructions, directions of the director of the company, then this body corporate is the related party of the company. Okay, so that is your next. Any body corporate whose board, the body corporate, the board of directors, managing director, manager of this body corporate acts with the advice of any director or manager of the company, then this body corporate is also considered as a related party of that company. Next, any person on whose advice, directions, instructions the director or manager of the company acts. So any director or manager of the company acts on the advice, direction, instructions of this person, then this person is the related party of the company. Holding company, subsidiary or associate of this company, they are all related party. So I am a company X, okay, I am X Limited. My subsidiary, my holding, my associate is my related party. All right. So holding, subsidiary, associate is considered as related party. Subsidiary of holding, fellow subsidiary, okay, subsidiary of a subsidiary. Investing company or venturer of the company, okay, what is this exactly? Now let's say that company X has invested in shares which give them 20% of the total voting power. Now you understood what is the meaning of total voting power. So I am X Limited, I own so many shares that it gives me more than 20% of the total voting power in Y. Y is an associate of X. So X is considered as a related party of Y Limited. Okay, so X is considered as related party of Y. So over here they have mentioned that investing company, that is X, will be considered as related party of the company. Okay. Any other person as may be prescribed. So any other person can be included in the definition of related party. All right, students. So this was related party. You can now pause the video, copy all this in your notebook, because you need not read the definition. This chart is sufficient. And I'll just put my mobile on silent. Done. Okay. Done writing? All right. Next we have this part. Let us continue. Finish writing? Okay, the next part. Okay, so this was related party. Let us continue. Where were we? Yes, this is my document. We finished all this. We finished related party. Relative, I will discuss later with you. Remuneration. So remuneration means money or its equivalent. Okay, either give money or equivalent. Why? For the services rendered by a person, and it also includes perquisites as defined under the Income Tax Act. So remuneration is any money which I receive for giving services to the company, and it also includes perquisites. So money plus perks. All this is not covered in the module, so we are ignoring that. What is the meaning of share? Share means share in the share capital of the company. It is the smallest unit into which the capital is divided. So share is a smallest unit. It also includes stock. Now what is stock? See students, share is always expressed in whole numbers, whereas stock is expressed in amount, rupees. It is possible to sell stock in any denomination. So we can sell in any denomination. Whereas share can be sold in whole numbers only because it is expressed in numbers. sold in whole numbers. I cannot sell 8.33 shares. No, this is not possible. I can sell either 8 or 9 shares. But I can sell stock of 5,463 rupees. Although if I convert that into share, it comes as a fractional share, but I'm not concerned because stock itself is expressed in amount rupees, so it can be sold in any denomination. I will be discussing this in detail when we come to the chapter share and share capital. Small company, again we will discuss later. Subscribed capital is the capital which we have subscribed. It means this is acceptance. It is only after subscription that a contract comes into existence. This is nothing but acceptance. Then we have sweat equity shares. Now, sweat equity. I have worked hard for the company. Company wants to reward me, but they don't have money. So they give me shares instead. So what are the keywords to be noted? It means such equity shares. Okay, we are discussing sweat equity. So these are equity shares. Such equity shares which are issued by the company. To whom? To whom are they issued? To directors or employees. Okay, to directors or employees. How are they issued? Either at a discount. Let me highlight this. They are issued to directors or employees. How are they issued? Either at discount or for consideration other than cash. Now, an employee of mine gave me a patent or a copyright. I want to return some money to him. I don't have money. When I start manufacturing, that time I'll get money against that patent. So I'll give you shares instead. No, the value will increase when we start production. So this also we are going to discuss in the chapter share and share capital. This is just an introduction. So companies, they want to reward their directors or employees, but they don't have money. So they give them shares either at a discount or for consideration other than cash. So if you're giving it for consideration other than cash, what consideration are you receiving? See, those employees or directors have made available technical know-how, rights in the nature of intellectual property rights, IPR, intellectual property rights, value additions. They have given patents, trademark, copy, design, added some value. So why are we giving them? See, why? Because of these reasons. This is why. So 3 questions. To whom it is given? Directors or employees. Why? How it is given? Either at a discount or consideration other than cash. Why it is given? Because they have parted with technical know-how, intellectual property rights or value addition to the company. That is why we are rewarding them. It's a reward with sweat equity shares. So these 3 questions will help you to understand and remember the definition. Again, to whom it is given? Director or employee. How it is given? Either at discount or consideration other than cash. Why is it given? For providing technical know-how, IPR or value addition. Total voting power. Now what is the meaning of total voting power? In relation to any matter. So this is not a very specific definition to a specific section. In relation to any matter. It means the total number of votes. So total number of votes which may be cast in regards to that matter at a poll, on a poll at a meeting of the company, if all members or their proxy having the right to vote on that matter are present at the meeting and they cast their vote. So all this is based on hypothesis. If all the members or their proxies entitled to vote attend the meeting and they all decide to vote, then what is my total voting power? Okay, so total voting power. They may or may not vote, but what is my total voting power? If all are present in the meeting, if all decide to vote at the meeting, what is my total voting power? I have highlighted the words may, if, because see, it is not very specific. It is based on some assumption that if all cast their vote, if all are present, then that is their total voting power. Not important for exam. Then we have tribunal, which is NCLT, National Company Law Tribunal. It is a quasi NCLT. It's a quasi judicial body, means it is just like the court. Corporate matters are heard by NCLT. If you're not happy, you can appeal to NCLT, that is appellate tribunal. If you're not happy, then you can go to the high court, Supreme Court. But the corporate related matters, instead of going to the regular courts, they go to NCLT. So it's a quasi-judicial, it's just like a court. This we discussed. Then we have turnover. What is the meaning of turnover? Again, not very important for exam. It is the gross amount. Gross is the key word for us. It's the total gross amount of what? Of the revenue recognized in the profit and loss account, which you get from the sale or supply or distribution of goods or services or both during the financial year. So what is your gross sale? Okay, turnover means your gross sale, something you have earned from sale or supply or distribution of goods, services or both during the year. Gross word is important. Unlimited liability. As I discussed, whenever we talk about liability, we are talking about liability of the member. We don't talk about liability of the company. Liability of the company is always unlimited. Liability of the member may be either limited, unlimited, limited by shares, guarantee or unlimited. So these companies do not have any limit on the liability of members. Voting power. It means the right of a member. It may include equity or preference. See, preference shareholders also have a right to vote, but only on the resolutions which concern them as preference shareholders, whereas equity can vote on any resolution, but preference shareholders can vote only on resolutions which concern them as preference shareholders. So this is the right of the member to vote at any meeting. You either go vote either by show of hands or by poll or by means of postal ballot. Postal ballot includes post as well as electronic mode. So voting right means I have a right to cast my vote. So students, these were the definitions covered under the preliminary chapter. That is the first chapter. I have, not discussed a few definitions because I feel it will be better if we discuss them while we are studying the concept in detail. However, everything will be covered. Don't worry about that. So students, with this, we come to an end of the first chapter, but only my part is over. Your part actually starts now. You will revise the entire chapter. Okay, you will go through all the definitions again. You will try to memorize the definition. How to do that? I have broken down the definition into small parts. I have asked why, how, when questions. Ask yourself those questions and try to frame the definition in your own, not in your own words, but in the words as given. 70 to 80% accuracy is fine. Go through the podcast revision lectures because there we will discuss the clause numbers in a story format. I'll help you to memorize it. I will also like you to maintain a notebook wherein you just go on writing the definitions so that you are able to learn them. Okay, write and practice. After you're done with all this, after you go through the definitions, you write and learn them, go through the podcast lectures, then you try to solve the questions from compiler. Okay. Yes, I agree that there are certain questions which require us knowledge of the types of companies. So we'll see how to manage that. See if you're able to solve the questions relating to definitions. After you're done with the compiler, then we will move to the next unit. If you feel there are certain questions which you're not able to answer, just keep them on hold. After we discuss the types of company, everything will be clear because there are certain questions like small company and all we have not discussed. So you can go through that later or you can just go through the questions because small company and other few definitions which I have left like private company, public company, those were already covered in foundation. So you are in a position to now solve the compiler. Okay. So listen to the podcast. First learn it on your own. Listen to the podcast lecture and thirdly, solve the questions from compiler. After you're done with all that, then you watch my discussion video on compiler. Okay. Don't just watch the video and do it along with me. I want you to take the effort. You're getting me? So promise, will you solve the compiler first on your own and then watch the discussion video? Yes? Okay. So with this students, we come to an end of the first chapter. I'm so excited that we completed this chapter in detail and we got to learn so many new things. Na? Because this is your first chapter, I don't think you need any motivation, but I always tell my students before itself that later after a few lectures, you may feel bored because you have started all the subjects. You may not want to study. You may feel that, "Arey yaar, itna kyun padna hai? Why am I studying so much? The entire day I'm only studying." But whenever you feel demotivated, think of your parents. They have done so much for you. And what are they asking in return? Just one small degree, that also not for themselves, but for you. They just want the word CA, the letter CA before your name. So this is one return gift which we can give our parents. Don't you think so? So whenever you feel demotivated, whenever you feel low, whenever you feel like giving up, just think about how happy your parents will be when they see that their son or daughter has become a chartered accountant. It is your dream which has now become their dream. So you have to work hard to fulfill their dream. So whenever you feel demotivated, just think about your parents and see your mood will change. You will suddenly feel like studying. If possible, keep their photo in your mobile. Whenever you feel distracted, you want to go to your mobile again and again, you feel distracted, whenever you open the mobile and you see your parents, it is a reminder that you have to study for them. So remember this and always study for your parents. All right. So with this, I end my first lecture and I'll see you in my next lecture.